All right, so if you've ever, and I mean ever, worked on a complex project, you know this feeling. It's that moment of pure frustration, right? You change one tiny thing in your schedule and boom, the entire plan just explodes and you have no idea why. Well, today, we're diving into an open source engine called utf8proj, and it was born from that exact pain point. Its whole mission? To make project scheduling make sense again. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You're staring at some standard project management tool, you nudge one little task, and the whole Gantt chart does this crazy dance. You're just left looking at the screen, thinking, why? Why did that just happen? That's the classic black box problem in a nutshell. And that one question, that why, is literally the reason UTF-8proj even exists. And really, this gets right to the heart of it. It's like two totally different ways of thinking. On one hand, you have the traditional tools. They're these black boxes, right? They use weird binary files you can't really read and forget about trying to track changes in Git. It's impossible. Then you have the UTF-8proj way. The philosophy here is the complete opposite. Every single change has a reason you can trace, and because it's all just plain text, it's a dream for version control. We're not just talking about a new feature here. This is a totally different way to think about and manage a project plan. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Section 1, a plan to build something better. Let's dig into where this whole idea came from. So what you're looking at here is straight out of the project's very first design document, what they called RFC-0001. And it really lays out the original dream. The needs were super clear right from the start. People wanted text-based plans they could check into source control. They needed something that would just slot right into their CI/CD pipelines. And they wanted a single, simple, dependency-free program. The big idea was to build a modern replacement for older tools like the Ruby-based task juggler, but do it all in Rust for, crazy speed and simplicity. And let me tell you, the ambition here was massive right from day one. They weren't just trying to copy an old tool. No way. The plan was to build a powerful scheduling engine. We're talking about bringing in some really advanced stuff like BDD and SAT solvers. Now, you can think of those as super smart ways to use logic to explore every possible outcome of your plan. This was for doing really complex what-if scenarios. I mean, this is a level of horsepower you just don't find in your average scheduling tool. But, like any good origin story, things didn't go perfectly. The project hit a major snag. A crisis, really. That super ambitious approach, well, it started to crack, revealing some really deep, fundamental flaws. And this was the moment everything had to change. This next table, from their second big document, RFC-002, basically lays out the disaster. The scheduling engine, the heart of the whole thing, was ignoring dependencies between tasks. It was spitting out impossible numbers like negative slack, which just shouldn't happen. And it was just unstable. The team had to face this really tough reality. Their first attempt was completely broken. It was violating the basic rules of how scheduling is supposed to work, the critical path method. And that crisis led to this absolute breakthrough moment, this crucial insight. Here it is. The way you organize tasks to show them to a person, that's the work breakdown structure, or WBS, is a totally different thing from the web of dependencies the computer actually needs to crunch the numbers. That's the directed acyclic graph, or DAG. They realized that trying to mash these two things together was the source of all their pain. The solution? They had to be pulled apart, completely separated. So once they had that light bulb moment, it led to a huge strategic pivot. They just stopped trying to be a task juggler replacement. Instead, they reframed the whole project. UTF-8proj was now going to be a modern CPM engine for developers. And that new mission, it was so much sharper. It was more honest about what the tool was good at, and it let them really double down on their unique strengths. Which brings us to Section 3, a whole new mission. See, this pivot wasn't just about fixing a technical bug. It was about finding a completely new game to play, and a new way to win by being different, not just a little bit better. So what were they going to win on? Well, first up, installation. A single file, no messing around with complex Ruby environments. We're talking like 10 times easier. Next, what comes out of the tool? They made JSON a top priority, which is exactly what modern dev tools need. And this is brilliant. Excel files that actually have the formulas baked in. Because let's be real, that's how a ton of project managers actually live and breathe. And they were already thinking ahead, planning for WebAssembly support. These were all things that other tools just couldn't or wouldn't do. And all of this came together in this one core philosophy. Describe, don't prescribe. You see, the tool's job isn't to tell you how to run your project. It's not going to force some weird methodology on you, or worse, silently fix things behind your back. No, its job is to be a perfect mirror. It just reflects your plan back at you and says, okay, based on what you told me, here are the logical consequences. It puts you in control. Okay, that's the big idea. So for section 4, let's look at how that philosophy actually shows up in the real world. How do these abstract principles turn into concrete features you can actually use? Okay, check out this principle from their third design doc. It comes straight from that big WBS versus DAG insight we talked about. In utf8proj, those summary tasks, what they call containers, are for one thing and one thing only: organization. They're just for making things look neat. They have absolutely zero effect on the schedule calculation. And this is a very deliberate choice, a huge difference from tools like Microsoft Project, where those summary tasks can have all sorts of weird, hidden side effects on your schedule. And here's how that plays out in the real world. Say you import an old Microsoft Project file that has one of these sneaky hidden dependencies on a summary task. utf8proj doesn't just pretend it's not there. First, it spots the problem. Then it gives you a super specific warning, W0 and 4. And then it actually offers to fix the file for you by making that hidden dependency obvious and explicit. It's all about teaching you what's going on with your plan instead of hiding the messy details. Here's another really smart idea. They decided to tackle the messiness of real-world planning head on. I mean, think about it. Most projects don't start on day one with every single task assigned to a specific person, right? Plans evolve. So utf8proj decided to make that natural evolution a core part of the tool. And they call this feature progressive resource refinement. It's all laid out in RFC number 4. It lets your plan grow up naturally. So you can start early on by saying, hey, this task needs a developer, just a generic role. Then, as you know more, you can get more specific. Okay, actually, we need a back-end dev for this. And then finally, you can nail it down. All right, Alice is doing this work. The amazing part is the tool understands that entire journey. So the history of how you got to that decision is never lost. It's all there. So where is all this headed? That brings us to our last section. The future is explainable. The big vision now is to take this incredibly powerful, transparent engine and make it accessible to, well, everyone. As they point out in RFC 0007, there's this gap, right? Technical folks, developers, they're happy in the command line in VS Code. But your project managers, your stakeholders, not so much. The solution? A playground that runs right in your web browser. By using WebAssembly, they can put the full power of the scheduling engine into a web page. No installs, no setup, just open a tab and go. And of course, they're thinking about AI, but look at how they're approaching it. It totally fits their philosophy. It's not about feeding your plan into some AI black box and hoping it spits out a perfect schedule. No. The idea is that the AI's job is to explain things and offer suggestions. Hey, have you considered this? But the human, you, always makes the final call. It's that core idea of explainability just brought into the age of AI. And all of this really leads to one big final question, doesn't it? What if managing a complex project felt less like you're fighting a mysterious black box and more like you're having a conversation with a trusted expert? What if your tools didn't just silently change things, but actually explained the consequences of your choices, helping you build a smarter plan? Well, that is the incredible promise of an explainable engine like utf8proj. Thanks for tuning in.